Good morning, Miss Collins. How are you doing today?
Just fine, and you?
I'm doing all right. It looks like you got a little taste of what the teachers go through on a pretty regular basis during this pandemic with remote learning and trying to figure out all the technology.
Oh, I
It's been a
know. It's terrible.
it's been a challenge this year, but they have persevered through and just done a great job. We still have we've got about 280 students, and around 200 of them are students that are in person. They come to school every day, and we've got about 80 students who are remote learners. They learn from home, um, and we started out with only about 115 or 120 that were here. So we have a lot of them have come back. Some of them for various reasons still do not feel safe coming to school. So
Right.
we provide learning opportunities for them at home, and we are recording this video and we'll be sharing it with them uh, after the conclusion of this Zoom meeting. So we are just real happy to have you.
Oh,
uh,
good. I'm glad to be here.
Looks like we have got most of our classes on here. I'm going to pause for 1 minute, and then I'm going to ask, do an all call just to remind teachers that we're getting ready to start. So I'll be
Okay.
back in just a minute.
All right.
I wonder if you walked into the school now,
If I would remember.
what it would look
I
like.
don't know. I wonder what all this is. It's like a pool and,
That's the desktop on my computer.
oh, this is?
Yes,
Looks like water.
that's a picture. That's a picture of Elizabeth.
No, it didn't. It's water.
It is a pool, and she's standing on the edge, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
hidden.
Okay. Yeah, Carla Simpson. I don't know who's which. He's telling teachers what to do.
Okay.
Boys and girls, I would like to introduce to you Miss Irma Collins, and I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself in a little bit, but I wanted to share something that was written about her in this book that she was the author of. And it says, Irma H. Collins has had an active and diverse teaching career that spans more than 50 years at both the public school and university levels. She received a DMA in music education from Temple University, an M.D. in voice at Peabody College in Nashville, Tennessee, and a BA in violin from Ouachita Baptist University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. She is Professor Emeritus of Music Education at Murray State University in Kentucky, and continued teaching as an adjunct professor of music education at Shenandoah Conservatory in Shenandoah University in Virginia, where she also created a lifelong learning program in music. Dr. Collins has taught violin, voice, and music education, and has directed choral groups for higher education institutions. She taught instrumental music for the Pittsburgh Board of Education and directed the vocal unit of the Centers for the Creatively Talented. She also served as MENC chairperson for the Society of Music Teacher Education, where she founded the Journal of Music Teacher Education. And so, Miss Collins, we welcome you, and we're excited to hear your story. We know that you have probably seen a whole lot of change in your years, and we are eager to hear about it. And so, if you want to take a few minutes and talk about yourself and really anything you want to recall about Fairview, and then Ms. Razak will bring in some students, and we have some specific questions for you. So I'll
Very
let you
good.
take it away.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I can start at the beginning, my beginning, if you like. When I first began school, it was at Central School. Central School is not there anymore, but it was across the street from Beach Street Church. I was there for 3 months, And then we moved to Senator Street, which is about 2.5 blocks from Fairview. But I was still in the first grade. So I started in January. And that was a very exciting day for me because my father owned a feed and seed store and he had to get to work. So he dropped me off at the school. I walked up the steps into Miss Winston's office and I told her, I want to go to school here. And she said, well, this is wonderful. You just come right on in. So then I went to Mrs. McMahon's class, the first grade teacher. And that was my first exposure to Fairview. And it was a room way back in the corner. And they keep asking about, was it 2-story? I don't recall that it was, but it could have been. But I was only on one level. Mrs. McMahon was back in the corner. And I don't know how many children were there, but I know they had more than they do today. My graduation class in the 6th grade, we had about 50 children. At any rate, I had a couple of episodes in the 1st grade. One thing, we had to stand up and say the alphabet as Mrs. McMahon pointed to each letter. I was doing great until we got to V. I could not remember V. To this day, I remember that. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't remember the letter V. At any rate, that was one event. And then I sucked my thumb. They almost never got me to not suck my thumb. I would put my head under the desk and suck my thumb. But finally, I outgrew that. And that's about all I remember about my 1st grade. And then I went to 2nd grade. We had a beautiful teacher. Her name was Mrs. Mabry. And I was doing very well till one day she had me to take a note home to my parents. So I did. And my mother told me that the note said, I would not pass to 3rd grade if I didn't improve my penmanship. So every afternoon after school, I practiced with my mother penmanship.
It looks like we may have lost Miss Collins' connection. We'll give her a few minutes to see if she can get back on. All right, Miss Collins, I'm glad we have you back. It looks like we may have had a little connection issue there. It looks like you're on mute down at the bottom left-hand side of the window. If you'll just click on the little microphone icon, probably cross through right now.
Okay, but I don't know. I got it.
Yeah, I think we got it. Thank you, Miss Joe.
Well, I found the message said unmute. Okay, I'm here. Now, do I get rid of this other little saying thing?
You did, click that.
I did. Okay, I'm still here.
All right, well, we can hear you.
Okay, well, I'll talk. Okay, in Mrs. Nick's class, I had a competitor. Her name was Sally Jo Franks, and she wrote very well. And so we were asked to write our books first, write from the book, so that we would have more books for the students in the class. So I felt redeemed if I could do that when I'm in the 4th grade. But so I did that. And then Mrs. Stewart's class was 5th grade geography and social studies. Loved that class. Mrs. Stewart was wonderful. And in that class, she would read to us if we were good. So at the end of class, before the bell rang, she would close her book and then she would read to us. And we just loved that. But I'll tell you one little terrible thing that happened to me. We had wooden desks. I don't know what you have now, but these were the large wooden desks. And I saw everybody's name on that desk. And I thought, how fun. I wrote my name on the desk. And I promptly got called into the principal's office. And they said, do you realize what you did? Yes, ma'am. Well, you shouldn't do that. No, ma'am. And then she said, you need to go try to erase that. Okay, yes, I will do that. And don't you ever do that again. Yes, ma'am. So I was punished. in the, I think it was the 4th or 5th grade, I don't remember, but I was embarrassed. Anyway, I love Miss George's class. Now, somewhere in there, the 4th period or the 5th period, we had brought our money for chocolate milk or vanilla, I think. Of course, I always wanted chocolate. And then we had a brief break and we all stood up around the room and drank our little drinks. Do they still do that?
Well, we serve milk at lunch, but we don't have milk breaks in the middle of the day. No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, this was in the middle of the morning, so I didn't figure you did that. But anyway, we did. And then I went on into the 6th grade. We had 6 grades then, and had a beautiful teacher. Her name was Mrs. Ocean Bean, very good teacher. And then someone asked if we played outside. And this is a story about her, in that we went outside to play and we always played softball. And one day she was the pitcher and I was the batter. And of course, I'd been batting with my cousins and I knew how to bat. Well, she threw the ball. I batted that ball and it hit her in the stomach. I was mortified. But she was okay, and she told me she was okay, but I really was embarrassed about that. So I've always remembered that. But we did typical things, you know, like hopscotch and I don't know, doing things with the rope. But that's pretty much. Now, the other place that I enjoyed was Mrs. Ringo's music and health class. And she was at the other end of the building. And so we listened to music and she talked about the composers. And so we really enjoyed that. And she talked to us about health, what we should do about health. I remember that. And we pretty much did that at home.
Is there anything you like to do?
Are you still there?
We are still there. And I'm going to ask that Miss Razak turn it over to her. And she's got a few students that are going to ask you some questions from the class.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
We can't see.
Sorry.
Okay, Miss Collins, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh, you can't see me? Okay.
And you can't see me because I can't see me. That's okay.
Okay,
That's okay. We can talk.
I have a student here that's going to ask you a few questions, and
Okay.
so I'm going to let him talk. Go ahead.
What was your favorite thing about Fairview?
Did you hear him?
Not exactly. Something about Fairview.
Yes.
Say it again.
What was your favorite thing about Fairview?
Favorite thing. What was your favorite thing about Fairview?
What was my favorite thing about Fairview?
Yes.
Yes.
I just loved going to Fairview. I loved the school. I loved the teachers. I loved what we did. And this is why I've always remembered it. In the summer, I could hardly wait to go back to school.
Okay, I have another student here, and she's going to ask you a question.
Okay.
How many kids were in your class?
How many kids were in my class, in the class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. According to the picture of our graduating class, there were about 50 in the class. But you probably only have about 20 or 26, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, they cut that down several years later. Many. But it, you know, that worked. I was going to say also about Fairview, we had a school song. Do you know that? Did you know that?
I don't
No.
think we did.
Well, the one thing I remember about that song was I used to could sing more of it, but it talked about Fairview as being down in Miller. We always remembered that because Miller was Miller County. But we did have a school song, and we all sang it.
How did it go?
Hmm?
How did it sound?
I don't remember.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I don't remember how it goes.
Well,
Okay,
I wasn't going to call you out there, Miss Collins. Thank you, Miss Joe, for calling her out for us. We were wondering the same thing.
Okay, are you, we're gonna ask you another question, Miss Collins.
Okay?
You attend Fairview?
What's that?
What years did you attend Fairview?
what years?
Oh, I attended Fairview from the first grade through the sixth
What
grade,
years?
and that was 1936 to 1942.
Long time ago.
And I also remember you telling me yesterday that there was no kindergarten when you went to school. They just started right at first grade, right?
So far as I know, there was no kindergarten. And I think kindergarten came later in a lot of schools, and a part of it had to do with money. But
Okay.
eventually, I think they did. My brother may have gone to kindergarten. I don't remember. He was 7 years younger than me.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, is there, that's all the questions that my kids have
Okay?
here. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about Fairview, or Mr. McDonald, do you?
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Miss Collins. 1936. That's a long time ago. What do you think is the biggest change in the world? Not necessarily to do with school, but in your opinion, what's the biggest change that you have seen in your lifetime?
That's a big question. Well, first of all, I guess I think about people in our country. We have a lot more people now. We have a lot more technology. It was in the 1980s before we got the cell phone and also the computer. Those two, I mean, that was pretty late, but I'm sure students today, that's something they're very used to. Technology, I think, is a big thing, one of the big changes. We have a lot more integration of people and things everywhere. And of course, we have a lot more traffic. That's a big problem, traffic. And we can now fly anywhere we want to. Used to, you could not do that. But now, even some of the smaller cities have air service, although they are beginning to remove that some. But air travel was a very special thing when it first started. Everybody dressed up, and you just had the motors on the outside. You didn't have jets. So I guess those were a lot of changes. Now, in terms of school,
Do they have, you have walked home for lunch? Do they do that?
yeah. Do you have busing anymore?
Yes,
Or
ma'am,
no?
we do. We have about 12 buses. Not all of them come to Fairview. Of course, this year with the pandemic, it's quite a bit different. We have a lot fewer bus riders this year than we have
Right.
in years
Uh-huh.
past, but we do have buses. And one of the things that's different about Fairview now than when you were there, we're an open district, which means that any student can go to any elementary school as long as there's room. So it's
Right.
not just students that live here in the neighborhood. They
Uh-huh.
could live, on the north side of town or the south side of town, and we'll bus them into Fairview. And so we've got a pretty good mix, and we do bus students.
When I was there, of course, there was no busing. We were a local school, and we all knew each other. We knew the families. But the College Hillside had buses, and they I think they began to bus when they went to junior high school,
Okay.
but we were typically just a local elementary school.
You went home for lunch.
Oh, yes. And I did a lot of walking when I was a student. I walked home for lunch. When I graduated and went to the junior high, I walked home from lunch for lunch. And since high school was only a block away, I walked home from there for lunch. There were students from College Hill that were bused in junior high, and they brought their lunch. But we did not have cafeterias like they do now.
Wow, I did not realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Collins, I don't want to take up very much more of your time. We sure do appreciate you reaching out to us last year, and I've enjoyed our conversations. Thank you for the book, and it's just really nice for our students to be able to see someone and talk to someone who has had such a long, successful career that started right here at Fairview. And so as we celebrate our 100th year this year, we salute you and thank you for your time today. Did you have
Well,
any last comments?
well, it's been wonderful. And as I told you earlier, I've always remembered Fairview. I loved it. And I think that helped me in my schooling because I tried to do everything at every school that I did at Fairview. So it was wonderful. And you did say earlier that you didn't think your students knew anybody 90. Did you find out if they had a grandmother that was 90?
We may have one or two. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I thought that was interesting. But I did make a list here. Amanda asked me if you have time.
Sure.
These are the people I remember at Fairview. Of course, first on the list was Herbert Wren. Did you know him or remember him?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean when he was in elementary. Herbert Wren was a very fantastic doctor and surgeon in Texarkana for many years. But he was 1 year ahead of me at Fairview.
Okay.
And then there was Thurman McDaniel, Jimmy Poland, Fleet Cook. Fleet Cook, I always wanted to write like him, but I didn't. And then the girls were Margaret Hutchinson, Sally Jo Franks, Betty Stone, and Sarah Black. Those are the ones I remember now.
Well,
But
Miss Collins, you're doing pretty good. I personally, I can remember maybe one or two students from when I was in elementary school. I sure hope that if I make it to 90, my mind is as sharp as yours.
Well,
I could remember when I suggested this, and I told the team about it, and they said, "Well, is she going to be able to do this? She's 90." And I said, "Look, I have not talked to her face to face, but just on the phone, I can tell that she has got a strong voice, and she has got a lot of wit, and she's going to be able to do it, and she's going to say yes." And you sure have not disappointed.
Well, listen, I have one last question.
Okay.
Your teachers, do the students go from classroom to classroom, or does one teacher teach everybody?
Well, in years past, it really depends on the grades. In kindergarten, first grade, second grade, the teachers are pretty much self-contained, meaning they teach everything.
Okay.
In third, fourth, and fifth grade, we are departmentalized.
Good.
But of course, this year with the pandemic, instead of students switching classes, the teachers switch classes, which has not been a very popular decision. But we're trying to keep people from cross-contaminating and being unnecessarily exposed. So hopefully, when this thing gets behind us, we'll be able to get back to what we used to call normal. It's sometimes hard to remember what normal used to be like, but.
Right. So do you like the idea of departmentalization?
I do. I think it gives people with a talent to teach reading or a talent to teach math or a talent to teach science to be able to affect as many students as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Right. I mentioned it when I was in Murray, Kentucky, where the university is and where I taught. And they said, oh, no, that would just mix up everything. No, we don't do that. And I said, I think you're making a mistake. So you see, I've always remembered Fairview. And I think you're right, because there are people who have specialties in math and language and in reading, and there are those specialties, and they can bring so much more to the classroom, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, well, thank you for listening to me as I rattle on. And
well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, and I hope we get to meet sometime.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be nice. And please tell Amanda how much I appreciate her help.
Oh, yes, ma'am. She's still on. You might not be able to see her, but she can see you. And
Okay.
I will, Miss Collins, I will send you a link that you can click on if you wanted to watch this again, or share it at your Bridge Club friends, or whoever you want to share it with. I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. If everybody wants to turn their camera on, that way she can see you. I know we've been doing it for bandwidth issues, but
I wonder.
She may need to go to gallery view or whatever.
oh, okay. Joe, up in the upper right-hand corner, it probably says speaker view. If you will click on that, and then click on the little, it looks like a waffle.
Not seeing that. Let me see here. Support.
We have a big W.
Not sure what we're doing wrong, if anything.
Is it another word?
I don't have any of those things. Look down a little bit. Look above my picture and to the.
We don't see your picture.
Let me just try something.
Wait.
Oh, gee.
We don't want
That's
to.
not it.
Well, I tell you what I'll do. I will take a screenshot and send that to you. How about that?
That's fine.
All right. So everybody on camera, smile and say cheese.
Start.
All right. And I will email you that picture, Miss Collins. How about that?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today. Be safe and be healthy.
You too. Be good.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Just wait. He's going to send us something. How many children will be there?
How many children are watching, or how many children will actually ask a question?
Right. 4, did you say?
Well, I'll have just 2 kids in here in my office, and they'll ask the questions, but all of our students on campus are watching.
Oh, okay, great.
That's nice.
Now, your school is integrated, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That happened back in 1965 or 6. When I went to Pittsburgh, they had just begun to be integrated. The violin. Oh,
my God.
I was 9 years old there. Where'd you get those pictures? And here I am right there.
She can't see that.
Can you not see that?
I can see it.
Okay.
He's sharing his screen, so I can see you and I can see the screen right now.
That's when I first started, 9 years old. I was a big girl. I'm not big anymore. This is my nephew. Where'd you get those pictures? Did you send them? It's a nice picture of my boat. I guess these are teachers. And that's Brian. And that's Amanda.
There, Madeline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scratching his back. He loves it.
So good. You're not going to bark, are you? If he does, you take him out real
Yes,
quick,
of
shut the
course,
door.
I will. Does that feel good, sweetheart?
I wonder where he got those pictures.
Don't even go there.
Did you send?
No, don't even ask questions. That takes up time.
Well, I can't imagine where he got those.
I might have. You sent pictures to different places.
I think he got them when you sent the book. When you sent him the book, your book.
Oh, I sent him some pictures. Okay.
You did. Yep.
I didn't remember that.
That's okay.
So is he gonna just start talking or what?
Yes, we're still waiting on some teachers to log on, and so probably about 6 or 7 more minutes. So you can mute it for a minute if you need to do something else, but we'll probably start in about 6 minutes. I just wanted to get on here a little bit before then and talk to you and make sure that you could get on and hear me and see us and all that good stuff.
That should make it okay.
Am I there?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, I think you just had it muted. I'm just gonna mute for a second so I can talk to these kiddos about these questions.
I see. I didn't realize I had to use the mouse.
Yes. Okay,
I got
just one